On a quiet afternoon in Lexington, Kentucky, young Ethan, a 12-year-old boy with a curious mind and adventurous heart, was immersed in his favorite routine of exploring every corner of the room that breathed stories of past generations. He loved to imagine the lives of those who had grown up within these same walls, touched the same furniture. It was as if every scratch in the wood and every mark on the faded paint had a story to tell. That day, as he rummaged through old toys and dusty books, Ethan stumbled upon a strange irregularity in the wall, right behind the heavy, sturdy bookshelf that held works as old as time itself. The wall, usually smooth and cold to the touch, had a slight protrusion forming an almost imperceptible line, hidden under layers of old paint and faded wallpaper. Intrigued and unable to contain his curiosity, Ethan called his mother, Laura, a woman with a serene demeanor and eyes that always sparkled when watching her son. With a mix of excitement and caution, she approached, wiping her hands on the apron she wore. "What did you find, Ethan?" she asked with a smile that encouraged exploration. "Look, Mom, the wall is weird here," Ethan said, pointing to the discrepancy he had noticed. Laura examined the wall closely, her brow slightly furrowed. "You're right, it seems like there's something behind this bookcase." She agreed, her voice tinged with the emotion that only the possibilities of a new discovery could bring. Together, with coordinated effort, mother and son began to move the bookcase. The wood creaked under the weight of the books and its age, but they persisted, slowly pushing the furniture until it revealed what was hidden. With one final push, the bookcase moved enough to unveil an old door embedded in the room's wall. The door was covered in a thick layer of dust and spiderwebs, sealed by time and oblivion. Ethan, eyes wide with surprise and fascination, looked to Laura for approval. Laura, visibly moved, a tear sparkling in the corner of her eye, nodded. "Let's see what's on the other side, Ethan," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder, sharing a moment of complicity and anticipation. With a mix of anxiety and excitement, Ethan placed his hand on the cold, rusty doorknob, feeling the resistance of years of disuse. With an effort that involved both his youthful curiosity and strength he didn't know he possessed, he turned the knob. The door groaned in protest before giving way, slowly opening to reveal the shadows of a space long forgotten. As the dim light from Ethan's room invaded the hidden room, they could see outlines of objects covered with cloths and stacked boxes. And there, in a corner, illuminated by a beam of light struggling through the door opening, a carved wooden box called to them. It was the beginning of an adventure neither of them could have predicted, filled with ancestral mysteries ready to be unveiled. Thus, in the heart of Lexington, mother and son began to unravel the secrets that Eleanor, Ethan's great-grandmother, had carefully preserved, opening the door to a story that was just beginning to unfold. As the ancient wooden door creaked open, Ethan and Laura were enveloped by the musty air of a room seemingly untouched by time. They stepped inside, their senses tingling with anticipation as their eyes adjusted to the dim light that barely illuminated the small, secluded chamber. Dust particles danced in the air, swirling around the single ray of light that spotlighted a prominently placed, exquisitely carved wooden box. The box, marked with the name Eleanor in elegant, flowing script, seemed to hold the weight of history within its aged wood. Laura approached it with a reverence that only such a discovery could command. Her hands, steady yet filled with emotion, carefully lifted the lid, releasing a faint aroma of lavender mixed with the old, ink-stained papers. Inside, a collection of letters and diaries lay meticulously arranged, their yellowed pages whispering tales of yesteryears. Ethan stood beside his mother, his young face illuminated by the glow of adventure and the thrill of discovery. As Laura gently unfolded the first letter, her voice trembled slightly, imbuing the words with life. "These were your great-grandmother Eleanor's," she explained, her voice thick with emotion. "She lived a life filled with adventure and had penned these words hoping one day they'd find you when you were ready to understand her legacy." Together, they delved into the diaries. Eleanor's narratives sprung to life, painting vivid pictures of distant lands, hidden treasures, and encounters that shaped her indomitable spirit. Her adventures, penned with eloquence and passion, captivated Ethan, igniting a desire to experience the world as she had. With each page turned, the room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in as if to preserve the connection forming across generations. Laura read aloud, her voice steady now, each word a testament to Eleanor's adventurous spirit. The tales were not just stories, they were lessons in bravery, resilience, and the pursuit of knowledge. "Eleanor was a lot like you," Laura said softly, glancing at Ethan with a smile that mingled pride with nostalgia. "Curious, brave, and always seeking out the truth. She wrote these for you, to inspire, to challenge, and to remind you that life itself is the greatest adventure." Ethan's eyes sparkled with reflection and anticipation. The connection to his great-grandmother, established through her written word, deeply moved him. It was as if Eleanor's spirit was guiding him, urging him to embark on his own journey of discovery. As they absorbed the last of the day's light reading through Eleanor's adventures, a profound sense of purpose settled over them. This was more than a mere exploration of old writings. It was the awakening of a new path, a new quest that beckoned Ethan, rooted deeply in the legacy of his great-grandmother. Sitting beside the old box in the quiet of the room, mother and son shared a moment of silent acknowledgement. They were at the precipice of a new beginning, ready to step forward into a journey that was theirs to define. In the dimming light of the old room, the air thick with history, Ethan and Laura continued their exploration of Eleanor's diaries, turning each page with a mixture of reverence and anticipation. The fading daylight cast shadows across the pages, making the ink seem to dance as they delved deeper into the recorded adventures. Ethan, his excitement palpable, traced his fingers over the weathered pages, where maps and cryptic notes were interspersed between vivid descriptions of Eleanor's travels. The diaries were not merely journals, they were treasure maps, guidebooks to hidden wonders, crafted by a woman whose spirit refused to be confined by the era she lived in. As they flipped through the pages, Ethan stumbled upon a detailed account of a journey to the Appalachian Mountains, where Eleanor described a hidden cave beneath the roots of an ancient oak tree. The description was poetic yet precise, providing not only the geographical details but also embedding a cryptic clue within the text. It spoke of the guardian of the forest whose roots touched the hidden trove, a puzzle Eleanor had crafted to safeguard the knowledge of the treasure's location. Laura watched her son's fascination grow with each discovery. "She really was something, wasn't she?" Laura mused, her voice a soft echo in the quiet room. Ethan nodded, completely absorbed by the notion that these adventures were now his to experience. The realization that he was retracing his great-grandmother's steps filled him with a sense of purpose and connection to his past that he had never felt before. Next, they examined a map Eleanor had drawn of an island in the Caribbean, marked with a series of intricate symbols and a trail leading to a hidden cove. The map was a masterpiece of old cartography, with notes scribbled in the margins about the tides and the best times to approach the secret spot. Eleanor had documented everything with such detail that it seemed she was speaking directly to them across the years, guiding them on their quest. Ethan's eyes lit up as he deciphered one of the symbols, a small, intricate lock that seemed to represent a physical challenge to be overcome. "She left us all the tools we need," Ethan said, his voice filled with awe. "We just have to be smart enough to use them." As night began to fall, casting a blue hue over the room, they prepared to leave, knowing that their adventure was just beginning. With the diaries under his arm and a heart full of anticipation, Ethan felt like he was stepping directly into the pages of his great-grandmother's life. The thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the bond it forged between him and his mother were treasures in their own right. Together they left the room, the door closing softly behind them as they stepped out into the remaining twilight, ready to follow the path Eleanor had charted. With the first stars twinkling in the sky above, they knew that the adventures detailed in the diaries were not just stories from the past, but beacons that would light their way forward. As the last light of the day faded into a canvas of twilight blues, Ethan and Laura sat at the old oak table that had once belonged to Eleanor. The table was strewn with maps, compasses, and various notes Eleanor had left in her diaries. They were surrounded by history, not just of their family, but of the journeys that had once been taken and were now to be embarked upon anew. Ethan was meticulous as he studied the maps, his fingers tracing the routes his great-grandmother had marked decades ago. The Caribbean island map was open before him, its edges worn, but the details still vivid, showing every cove and cliff. Beside it lay a map of the Appalachians, with specific trees and paths marked, a testament to Eleanor's detailed knowledge and adventurous spirit. Laura, on the other hand, was busy preparing the gear they would need. She packed the backpacks with essentials, first aid kits, water bottles, flashlights, and extra batteries. Her movements were methodical, each item checked off a list she had made to ensure they were as prepared as possible. While she worked, her mind was a mix of emotions. Pride in her son's enthusiasm, tinged with the natural worry that shadowed any parent's heart as their child neared the cusp of an unknown journey. They also gathered more unusual items that Eleanor's notes had suggested they would need. Old keys, which Eleanor hinted would unlock more than just doors, and a small, intricately carved box that Ethan found hidden in the back of a closet, which matched a drawing in one of the diaries. Each item was packed with care, wrapped in soft cloths to protect them during the travel. Ethan, full of youthful energy and barely contained excitement, couldn't help but bounce slightly on his heels as he reviewed the list of coordinates and clues. "We're really doing this, aren't we, Mom?" he asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and thrill. "Following in Great-Grandma's footsteps, finding treasure." Laura smiled, her heart swelling with a complex cocktail of emotions. "Yes, we are," she affirmed, feeling the weight of their lineage and the pull of adventure. "And we're going to do it together." As the evening wore on, they cross-referenced Eleanor's notes with modern satellite images on the computer, noting any significant changes in the landscapes that might affect their search. Ethan took meticulous notes, his handwriting a rushed scrawl filled with the urgency of their looming adventure. Once the planning was as complete as they could manage, they reviewed everything once more. The maps were folded with precision, the notes organized into sections for quick reference, and the backpacks stood by the door, ready for departure. The planning session had stretched into the night, and as they turned off the lights, the maps glowed faintly under the moonlight streaming through the window, a silent promise of the adventures to come. Ethan went to bed with dreams of hidden caves and sunken treasures dancing in his head, while Laura double-checked the locks on the doors and windows, her protective instincts in full force. They had prepared as best they could, but the true test would come with the dawn, when they would step out of their door and into the unknown, following the echo of Eleanor's daring spirit. As dawn broke, casting a soft golden glow over their small town, Ethan and Laura embarked on the first leg of their journey, their destination, the storied mountains of Appalachia. The drive was long and winding, with the roads hugging the contours of the lush, verdant landscape that grew increasingly rugged and wild as they neared their destination. Arriving in Appalachia, they were greeted by the majestic sight of towering mountains shrouded in mists, their peaks hidden like shy giants under a blanket of clouds. The air was crisp and cool, filled with the scent of pine and earth, a stark contrast to the urban familiarity of Lexington. As they unpacked their gear and adjusted their hiking boots, the reality of their adventure sank in deeply. Here, surrounded by the vastness of nature, they were mere specks against the canvas of history and wilderness. Guided by Eleanor's detailed maps, they ventured towards a specific location marked with an X. The map led them through dense undergrowth, across babbling brooks, and under the watchful eyes of local wildlife. Laura, with a map in one hand and a compass in the other, navigated the terrain with a confidence she seemed to summon from the very essence of Eleanor's spirit that lingered in her bloodline. After hours of hiking, they reached a secluded area where the trees parted to reveal the mouth of a hidden cave, just as Eleanor had described in her diaries. The entrance was overgrown with moss and ivy, making it nearly invisible to those who didn't know what they were looking for. With flashlights in hand and hearts pounding with anticipation, they stepped into the cool darkness of the cave. Inside, the cave stretched into shadowy corridors that branched off into silent alcoves. The beams of their flashlights danced across ancient rock formations, casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to flicker and move. As they delved deeper, The sound of their footsteps echoed off the walls, a reminder of the solitude that enveloped them. Ethan, who had been leading the way with youthful zeal, stopped suddenly. There, partially buried under a pile of small stones, was the first piece of the artifact, a compass, old and tarnished but beautifully crafted. The compass was heavy in his hands, its surface etched with inscriptions that were difficult to decipher in the dim light. These symbols, Eleanor had written, would point to the location of the next clue, a clever safeguard against those who might stumble upon the artifact by chance. The discovery of the compass was a profound moment for both Ethan and Laura. Not only was it a tangible connection to Eleanor's past, a piece of history they could hold, but it was also a symbol of the journey ahead. It was as if Eleanor herself had placed it there for them, a reward for their efforts and a beacon guiding them forward. With the compass safely stored in Ethan's backpack, they took a moment to appreciate the serenity of the cave. The silence was a blanket, comforting and solemn, a stark reminder of the isolation Eleanor must have felt on her own quests. Yet, there was a thrill in the air, a shared exhilaration that came from the chase, from the unfolding mystery that they were living. As they retraced their steps out of the cave, the light at the entrance grew brighter, a sign of the world outside waiting for them. They emerged into the afternoon light, the sun casting long shadows through the trees, the air filled with the sounds of nature resuming its chorus. With one clue in hand and the promise of more to come, they were ready to continue their journey, their spirits buoyed by the success of their first real test as treasure hunters. With the ancient compass securely nestled in Ethan's backpack, he and Laura set their sights on their next destination, the mysterious and alluring waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Their journey took them from the cool, whispering forests of Appalachia to the warm, sunlit shores where the turquoise waters kissed the white sands. The transition from the rugged, earthy terrain of the mountains to the expansive openness of the sea was a vivid reminder of the diverse beauty encapsulated within Eleanor's adventures. Upon arriving at the coastal town nearest to their targeted dive site, they organized their diving gear with meticulous care. Ethan felt a tingling sense of anticipation mixed with a dose of nervous excitement as they reviewed the diving procedures with a local expert. The maps Eleanor had left were detailed, but the ocean was a dynamic landscape, ever-changing and unpredictable. As they donned their wetsuits and checked their oxygen tanks, the reality of their adventure deepened. They were about to plunge into the depths of the Gulf, into a world that was alien and beautiful, a world where sunlight danced through the water and life flourished in silence. The dive boat chugged out of the harbor at dawn, cutting through the calm waters with a steady thrum. The sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, and seagulls cried overhead, their sounds fading into the wind as the shore became a distant line behind them. Ethan and Laura, geared up and ready, reviewed Eleanor's map one last time before the dive. The spot they were heading to was marked with an X, supposedly right above an underwater cave system known for its intricate coral formations and historical shipwrecks. As they anchored above the dive site, the ocean's vastness enveloped them. The water was clear, a window to the depths below where shadows and shapes invited the curious. With a synchronized plunge, mother and son descended into the cool embrace of the Gulf. The water around them was vibrant with life. Schools of colorful fish flitted by, indifferent to the human intruders in their world. Guided by the compass and the geographical markers Eleanor had noted, they navigated through a breathtaking underwater landscape. Coral gardens in brilliant oranges, purples, and greens sprawled beneath them, teeming with marine life. The ruins of a sunken ship loomed out of the blue, its skeleton a haunting relic intertwined with the reef. Amidst the ruins, hidden in a crevice of the ship's old wooden hull, they discovered the next piece of the puzzle, a bronze medal adorned with intricate engravings similar to the markings on the compass. As Ethan carefully freed the medal from its resting place, his heart raced with the thrill of discovery and the realization of how closely connected each clue was, each piece a deliberate part of a larger whole designed by Eleanor. The dive not only brought them closer to solving the mystery Eleanor had left behind, but also deepened the bond between Ethan and Laura. Below the surface, where words were impossible, Their communication transcended into a dance of gestures and shared smiles, each discovery a shared triumph. The silent world below the waves was a profound place, where the only sound was the rhythm of their breathing, and each breath they took was a reminder of their shared purpose and the extraordinary journey they were on. As they ascended back to the surface, the light of the sun welcomed them, filtering through the water with a promise of more adventures to come. Back on the boat, with salt water dripping from their smiles, they stored the newly found metal with the compass. Each artifact a key to the next chapter of their adventure, which lay waiting along the shorelines and beyond the horizon. As the news of Ethan and Laura's quest for Eleanor's hidden treasures began to ripple through their circle of acquaintances and beyond, it inevitably attracted the attention of various interested parties. Among them was George, a long-standing friend of the family, whose affable demeanor and warm chuckles had graced many of their gatherings. George approached them with offers of help, his familiarity and keen interest in their adventure seeming both a comfort and a boon at the time. With the Gulf expedition behind them, Ethan and Laura were already planning their next move, poring over maps and notes in their living room, the artifacts they had collected laid out in careful arrangement. It was during one of these planning sessions that George visited, claiming to have just learned of their adventure through the grapevine and expressing an eager willingness to assist. George brought with him resources and insights that at first seemed invaluable. He suggested new approaches to deciphering Eleanor's clues and even provided historical context to some of the locations Eleanor had explored. His involvement brought a new energy to the proceedings, and his presence became almost routine as they delved deeper into the mystery. However, as their reliance on George grew, so did the unease that Laura couldn't quite shake off. It was a subtle shift, a glance held too long, or a too curious question about the specifics of their findings. Her maternal instincts, honed by years of guarding her son's welfare, sensed a dissonance in George's recent overtures. The revelation came one stormy evening when the howling wind was a symphony to the chaos brewing inside their home. Laura walked into the study to find the maps scattered, and George hastily stuffing the bronze medal into his coat pocket. The room chilled further with his betrayal, his actions momentarily freezing her on the spot. George's justification was feeble, his words stumbling over one another as he tried to paint his theft as an act of preservation. He claimed that he was safeguarding the artifacts from potential threats, a hollow excuse that crumbled under Laura's steely gaze. The trust that had been extended so warmly to him shattered in those tense moments, leaving a cold void of betrayal. Ethan, who had rushed in at the sound of raised voices, felt the sting of George's treachery more acutely. George had been a mentor of sorts, a friend of his late grandfather, and a storyteller whose tales of the sea and adventures had once filled Ethan's young mind with wonder. Seeing him now, a thief caught in the act, was a harsh lesson in discernment and the darker sides of human nature. The confrontation ended with George's departure, the heavy slam of the door punctuating his exit and leaving mother and son to gather the scattered pieces of their trust and plans. They spent the rest of the night reviewing their security measures and reevaluating their circle of confidants, the excitement of their quest now tempered with a more cautious edge. This betrayal, though painful, forged a new resolve in them. It served as a stark reminder of the value of vigilance and resilience, qualities that Eleanor's diaries extolled repeatedly. They realized that their journey was not just a physical quest for treasure, but also a test of their character and judgment. Strengthened by the ordeal, Ethan and Laura prepared to continue their quest with renewed determination and a clearer understanding of the challenges that lay ahead. As dawn broke, washing away the vestiges of the night's storm, they were ready to face the next part of their adventure, mindful of the lessons learned in trust and betrayal. After the betrayal, the atmosphere around Ethan and Laura was charged with a mix of cautious determination and renewed vigilance. They now knew that their quest not only drew curiosity and wonder, but also greed and deception. Armed with this knowledge, they continued their journey, the next clue leading them to an imposing old fortress on the lush, verdant banks of the Mississippi River. This historic site, steeped in tales of battles and sieges, was about to become the backdrop for their own confrontation. The fortress, a relic of a turbulent past, stood as a silent sentinel overlooking the winding river. Its stone walls, covered in moss and ivy, told stories of time's passage, and as Laura and Ethan approached, the sense of stepping back into history was palpable. The fortress's strategic location, with panoramic views of the surrounding landscape, made it a fitting place to hide a valuable artifact, and according to Eleanor's diaries, a crucial piece of the puzzle was secreted somewhere within its depths. As they navigated through the dense foliage that had overgrown much of the structure, the weight of their previous encounter with George lingered heavily. They moved cautiously, aware that George knew of their plans and might well anticipate their next move. Their approach was silent, the only sounds being the rustling of leaves underfoot and the distant call of the river birds. Upon entering the fortress, the cool dampness of the stone corridors enveloped them, the echo of their footsteps a stark reminder of the fortress's hollow emptiness. The corridors branched off into shadowed halls and abandoned chambers, each turn and doorway a potential hiding spot for both the artifact and any who might wish them harm. It was in the heart of the fortress, in a grand hall adorned with faded murals depicting old river battles, that they found George waiting. The confrontation was inevitable. George, looking cornered and desperate, stood with his back to a large old fireplace, where the shadows cast by the flickering light of his torch played across his face, giving him a gaunt, almost spectral appearance. The air was thick with tension as Ethan and Laura faced George across the room. There was no grand speech or prolonged dialogue. The moment was too charged for words. Instead, they acted with the coordination of those who have faced adversity together and come through it stronger. Laura, with a nod to Ethan, distracted George with a feint to the left, while Ethan, quick and agile, darted towards the right where they had spotted the artifact, a small, metallic object glinting in the dim light. With a swift move, Ethan grasped the artifact, and at that moment, the full realization of his betrayal seemed to crash down on George. The defeat was evident in his posture as he slumped against the stone wall, the fight draining out of him. There was no further struggle. The confrontation was as much psychological as it was physical, and with the retrieval of the artifact, the victory was theirs. As they exited the fortress, the artifact safely secured, the sun was setting over the Mississippi, casting long shadows and bathing the river in a golden hue. The ordeal inside the fortress had not only tested their resolve, but had also solidified their determination to see Eleanor's mission through to the end. They knew that each step taken was a step closer to fulfilling her legacy, a legacy of courage, adventure, and truth. With the Mississippi River flowing quietly beside them, they prepared for the next phase of their journey, their spirits buoyed by the knowledge that they had overcome not just physical challenges, but the darker aspects of human nature as well. After the confrontation at the Mississippi Fortress, Ethan and Laura, with the artifact securely in their possession, found themselves embarking on the next leg of their journey under the vast, star-studded skies. The final clue in Eleanor's diaries led them far north to a remote village in Alaska, a place where the land stretched endlessly under the expansive blue and the cold bit sharply into every breath. Their arrival in Alaska marked a stark contrast from their previous environments. The biting cold and the pristine, icy landscapes enveloped them as they made their way through rugged terrain and sparse forests. The village they sought was nestled in a valley surrounded by towering mountains, its presence almost hidden by the mists that rolled down from the snow-capped peaks. This village, a tight-knit community with deep roots and a profound respect for tradition, was the guardian of the last piece of the artifact. According to Eleanor's notes, the piece was embedded within an ancient totem that stood at the village's center, a sacred symbol carved from the trunk of a centuries-old tree, representing the collective history and spirit of the people there. The totem itself was a marvel, towering over the village square, its features worn smooth by time, yet still distinct, telling stories of animals, spirits, and humans intertwined in a visual saga. Each figure on the totem was meticulously carved, representing different aspects of life and nature, embodying the beliefs and heritage of the village. With the consent and cooperation of the village elders, who understood the importance of their quest and the role it played in fulfilling Eleanor's legacy, Ethan and Laura were allowed to examine the totem. It was during this examination, under the soft glow of the northern lights that painted the sky in shimmering greens and purples, that they discovered the final piece. Hidden in plain sight, the artifact was part of the totem, a small, intricately carved piece of bone that fit perfectly with the other pieces they had gathered. The moment the last piece was carefully removed and fitted into the rest of the artifact, something remarkable happened. The sections of the artifact, each aligning perfectly with the others, began to reveal a complete map. This was no ordinary map. It was etched directly into the surface of the artifact, becoming visible only when the artifact was fully assembled. The map detailed a location, marked with a symbol that matched one of the most mysterious and yet unexplored sites in Eleanor's diaries. With the artifact now complete, Ethan and Laura stood under the awe-inspiring Aurora Borealis, their faces lit by its ethereal glow, feeling a profound connection not only to each other, but to the generations that preceded them. They knew they were on the brink of discovering something extraordinary, something that Eleanor had intended as a culmination of her life's adventures and explorations. The completion of the artifact was a significant milestone, marking both an end and a beginning. As they prepared to leave the village, their hearts were full of gratitude for the wisdom and hospitality of its people, and their minds were focused on the next phase of their journey. With the map now in their possession and the path clear, they knew that the real discovery was just ahead, waiting for them at the location that Eleanor had marked so many years ago, hidden away in her cryptic clues and adventurous tales. Guided by the intricately detailed map now assembled from the artifact, Ethan and Laura found themselves navigating the crystalline waters of the Caribbean toward a small, seemingly unremarkable island that was marked as the final destination of their quest. The island was fringed with white sandy beaches and dense tropical jungles that whispered secrets of ages past. Its isolation added to its mystique, making it an ideal spot to hide something valuable and significant. As their boat approached the shore, the sense of anticipation was palpable. The island exuded a quiet solitude that belied the treasure it held. Anchoring off the coast, Ethan and Laura equipped themselves with excavation tools, ready to uncover whatever Eleanor had deemed so essential to bury. The days that followed were grueling, yet exhilarating. They began their search at dawn each day, the sun casting long shadows across the sand as it rose. The heat was intense and the physical labor demanding, but the thrill of discovery drove them onward. They dug meticulously at the location marked on the map, their shovels turning over the soft sand, which seemed to have guarded its secrets for decades. After several days of painstaking effort, their tools finally clinked against something solid buried beneath the island's surface. Carefully brushing away the sand, they uncovered a metallic capsule, time-worn yet clearly well-preserved. It was sealed tightly, protecting its contents from the elements for what must have been many years. With hearts racing, they pried the capsule open, revealing not the gold or jewels that tales of treasure often recount, but something far more significant. Inside lay a collection of detailed plans and blueprints, meticulously rolled and preserved. These were Eleanor's visionary designs for a sustainable community. Her legacy meant to inspire future generations to live in harmony with their environment. The blueprints detailed innovative methods of water conservation, renewable energy usage, and sustainable farming practices that were far ahead of their time. Each document was a piece of a larger puzzle that, when assembled, formed a comprehensive plan for a community that could sustain itself while minimizing its impact on the surrounding ecosystem. As Ethan and Laura unrolled each set of plans, they were struck by the foresight and ingenuity of Eleanor's designs. Here, in these weathered pages, lay a testament to her belief in the possibility of a better world. It was clear that Eleanor's true treasure was not material wealth, but a blueprint for sustainable living that had the potential to benefit many. The discovery was not just an end to their treasure hunt, but a beginning of a new journey. To realize Eleanor's dream of a community that could serve as a beacon of sustainability and hope. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, they knew their adventure was far from over. The real work, to bring Eleanor's vision to life, was just about to begin. As the sun rose over the Caribbean island, casting a warm golden glow on the white sands, Ethan and Laura sat amidst the array of detailed blueprints and documents that outlined Eleanor's visionary project. The excitement of the treasure discovery had given way to a more profound sense of purpose. Here, in these meticulously crafted plans, lay Eleanor's true legacy, an innovative blueprint for sustainable living that could potentially reshape how communities interacted with their environments. The weight of this responsibility was not lost on Ethan. As he studied the blueprints, tracing the lines of water conservation systems and renewable energy solutions Eleanor had envisioned, he felt a deep connection to his great-grandmother's aspirations. It was clear that she had not only intended for her family to find this treasure, but also for them to realize its potential to create a lasting impact on the world. Determined to honor Eleanor's legacy, Ethan began to outline a plan to implement these sustainable practices. He envisioned starting with small communities, places where the changes could be closely monitored and adapted as needed, before expanding to larger areas. Each blueprint became a piece of a larger puzzle, fitting together into a comprehensive strategy that aimed to balance ecological sustainability with community development. His mother, Laura, provided insights from her own experiences, suggesting practical approaches to community engagement and education. They discussed how to introduce these ideas in a way that respected local traditions and environments, ensuring that Eleanor's vision could be integrated harmoniously without disrupting established ways of life. Together, they mapped out a phased approach that would begin with a pilot project. They identified a small, rural community back home that had been struggling with issues like water scarcity and energy costs, challenges that Eleanor's designs could directly address. By implementing rainwater harvesting systems and solar panels as outlined in the plans, they hoped to create a model that could be replicated in similar communities worldwide. Their discussions were filled with a mix of technical details and broader philosophical reflections on sustainability and community responsibility. They knew that real change required more than just infrastructure. It needed a shift in mindset, an embracing of new practices as beneficial not just for the environment, but for the community's overall well-being. As the day wore on, they compiled a list of experts, from environmental scientists to urban planners, who could help bring this project to life. They planned to reach out to universities, nonprofits, and potential funding sources that aligned with their mission. The scope of the work was daunting, but the clarity of Eleanor's vision provided a strong foundation to build upon. As evening approached, with the plans laid out in front of them, Ethan and Laura realized that they were no longer just treasure hunters. They were now custodians of a legacy that could inspire generations to come. Fueled by the promise of what lay ahead, they prepared to return home, ready to begin the real work of transforming Eleanor's dream into reality. With a clear plan in place and a resolve strengthened by the challenges they had overcome, they were ready to embark on the next phase of their journey. The return journey from the Caribbean island was a time of reflection and planning for Ethan and Laura. Their minds were abuzz with ideas and strategies, fueled by the excitement and responsibility of bringing Eleanor's vision to life. As the plane soared above the clouds, they sketched out the foundational steps for what would become the Eleanor Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing sustainable living and education. Upon landing, the pace quickened. They found themselves immersed in the logistical and legal necessities of establishing a foundation. Choosing a name was straightforward. It would be the Eleanor Foundation, in honor of the woman whose dreams and determination had inspired this entire journey. The mission statement, however, required careful thought. They wanted it to encapsulate Eleanor's holistic approach to sustainability, combining environmental, educational, and community-driven initiatives into a cohesive program. They rented an office space in their hometown, a modest but bright location that could serve as the operational hub for the foundation. The walls were soon adorned with maps and photographs from their adventure, each image a reminder of the journey and the commitments they had made. They employed a small but dedicated team, including environmental scientists, project managers, and educational specialists, each sharing a passion for making a difference in the world. The initial projects were ambitious. They focused on water conservation techniques, renewable energy installations, and sustainable agricultural practices, targeting communities that could benefit most from these initiatives. Workshops and seminars became a regular part of the Foundation's activities, aiming to educate and engage local populations in the projects being implemented. Funding was a hurdle, but with the compelling narrative of their quest and the tangible solutions they proposed, donations began to flow in. They also secured grants from environmental agencies and partnered with other organizations that aligned with their mission. Ethan took a hands-on approach, often traveling to project sites to oversee progress and engage with the communities personally. As the Foundation's work expanded, so did its impact. Success stories from the first few projects were shared in newsletters and across social media, drawing more attention and support from around the globe. The Eleanor Foundation quickly became recognized not only for its commitment to sustainability, but also for its roots in a family's legacy of adventure and discovery. Laura, with her steady hand and warm heart, became a beloved figure among the Foundation's partners and beneficiaries. She infused every project with a sense of care and respect, ensuring that the Foundation's work always honored Eleanor's memory and values. As they approached the end of their first year, the Eleanor Foundation had already made significant strides in changing lives and landscapes. The work was challenging, but the results were tangible, seen in the cleaner water, the greener farms, and the brighter smiles of the people they helped. With the Foundation now established and making a difference, Ethan and Laura prepared for the next chapter of their journey. The Foundation was poised to launch a global initiative that would introduce Eleanor's sustainable models to wider audiences and new environments. This next phase was not just about expansion, but about deepening the impact and ensuring that Eleanor's legacy could continue to inspire and benefit future generations. With the Foundation firmly established, Ethan and Laura embarked on the Eleanor Foundation's first series of projects, each designed to transform disadvantaged areas while promoting environmental education. The projects were carefully selected to reflect the core values and principles that Eleanor had championed: sustainability, community involvement, and education. The initial focus was on a small rural community that had long struggled with water scarcity and inefficient energy use. Here, the Foundation implemented rainwater harvesting systems, which were designed according to Eleanor's original blueprints. These systems collected rainwater during the wet season, storing it for use throughout the year, thus alleviating the community's water scarcity issues. Alongside water conservation, the Foundation introduced solar panels to the community. These panels provided a renewable source of energy, reducing the community's reliance on non-renewable power and decreasing overall energy costs. The installation of these panels served not only as a utility improvement, but also as a hands-on educational tool for the residents, particularly the youth, who were taught how the technology worked and the benefits it provided. To further its educational goals, the Eleanor Foundation set up a series of workshops and seminars in the community. These sessions were led by environmental experts and aimed to educate residents about sustainable practices that could be integrated into their daily lives. Topics ranged from permaculture gardening techniques to the importance of biodiversity and ecosystem preservation. The workshops were interactive, with practical demonstrations that allowed participants to engage directly with the material being taught. As word of the success of these initial projects spread, the community's perception began to shift. Residents who had been skeptical of the changes began to see tangible benefits. Gardens flourished from the efficient use of rainwater, and electricity bills lowered due to the newly installed solar panels. The community started to embrace the Foundation's efforts, seeing them as enhancements to their quality of life, rather than external impositions. The positive outcomes of these projects did not go unnoticed beyond the local level. News of the transformation effected by the Eleanor Foundation began to spread through social media, environmental blogs, and sustainability conferences. Soon, the foundation was receiving inquiries and requests for partnership from international organizations. These entities, ranging from global nonprofits to educational institutions, expressed interest in replicating the foundation's projects in other regions of the world. This recognition was a testament to the effectiveness and adaptability of Eleanor's vision. It proved that the principles of sustainability she had championed could be applied universally, benefiting not just one community, but potentially having a global impact. As the foundation prepared to close out its first successful year, the team reviewed the progress and began planning for expansion. With a proven track record and a growing network of international partners, the Eleanor Foundation was ready to take its mission to the next stage, bringing sustainable solutions to more communities and influencing environmental policies on a larger scale. Years had passed since Ethan and Laura first unearthed Eleanor's visionary plans on a secluded Caribbean island, plans that sparked a journey transforming not only landscapes but lives. Now, standing at the helm of the flourishing Eleanor Foundation, Ethan found himself a beacon of innovative leadership, his life forever altered by the adventures and discoveries that began in the dusty rooms of his ancestral home in Lexington. Under his guidance, the foundation had expanded its reach far beyond their initial projects, becoming a pivotal force in global sustainability efforts. The small rural community where they first implemented Eleanor's designs had blossomed into a model of ecological and economic resilience, attracting delegations from around the world eager to learn and replicate its success. As Ethan walked through the foundation's headquarters, now a dynamic hub of activity with teams planning projects in distant countries, he often paused to reflect on the journey that brought him here. The walls of the office were lined with photographs of the places and people whose lives had been touched by the foundation's work. Smiling faces in newly irrigated fields, children attending newly built schools in their villages, and wildlife thriving in areas once threatened by environmental degradation. The foundation's impact was not limited to rural transformations. Urban sustainability initiatives had also taken root, with projects focusing on green building practices, urban farming, and pollution reduction. These initiatives transformed cityscapes, turning gray spaces green and fostering communities where people lived healthier and more connected lives. Ethan's leadership style was deeply influenced by the lessons he had learned during his quest with Laura. He led with a sense of adventure, a commitment to discovery, and a profound respect for the natural world. His approach encouraged innovation and collaboration, drawing on the diverse strengths and ideas of his team to tackle challenges and envision a sustainable future. The legacy of Eleanor, once encapsulated in hidden blueprints and secret diaries, had grown into a powerful narrative of environmental stewardship and community empowerment. It was a story that resonated deeply in a world increasingly aware of the need for sustainable change. Ethan and Laura often shared their story at conferences and seminars, not only to inspire, but to ignite a similar passion in others to pursue sustainability as a valuable treasure. Now, as Ethan looked out over the city from his office window, he saw not just a skyline, but a horizon brimming with potential. The challenges were many, but the opportunities to make a meaningful difference were greater. Inspired by Eleanor's legacy, he was driven by the belief that the greatest treasures were not composed of gold, but of opportunities to create a better future for all. Reflecting on his journey, Ethan realized that the true treasure was the journey itself. The people met, the challenges overcome, and the knowledge that each step taken was a step toward making the world a more sustainable and compassionate place. As he prepared for the next chapter, he was filled with hope and determination, ready to guide the foundation into new territories, exploring not just the physical frontiers of the planet, but the expansive potential of human creativity and resilience.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.